So thank you everyone for coming. We're Tampa Devs, we're Tampa Bay's developer community. And then for this talk, we're gonna kind of showcase like how we built Tampa Devs, the community over in Tampa, and like how it all started. So kind of just a little introduction. My name is Vincent Tang. This is my co-organizer, Charlton Trezevant. There's also Lydia Hendricks and Haritha Darina. They're not here presently though at the conference, but they're also part of our board. So to kind of give you just like a quick overview, like a little video of what we are. That was actually recorded from our friend Arib over here. In case anyone needs videography work, does a fantastic job. And here's our next video, like this Sizzler. This is actually our hackathon we hosted last year at the Startup Incubator. So a lot of people that have like heard of us for the first time think we've been around for a very, very long time, but they're really surprised to find out that we've only been around for a little over a year. So to kind of give you, oops, sorry, why is that doing that? To give you an overview of that, sorry, just some technical difficulties here. This was our first event back in September of 2021. To kind of give you some context, I'll talk more about it later. This was 2022 when we had our hackathon over at the Startup Incubator in town at Embark. And this was our last event, 2023, first event of the year. We had just a huge number of people showing up. So that kind of gives you like a better context of what Tampa Devs is, kind of like the big picture overview, and kind of like the fewest words possible. We like throwing videos and pictures because I'm very visual in nature, so I just need to see stuff, you know? Especially when we're going through like all the talks, it's like very technical in nature, and it's kind of like refreshing that you're just looking at pictures, right? So, you know, like people have always asked us like how we did it, and it's always like a question. We've got asked this, haven't gotten asked this like hundreds of times already. So we're kind of like give you some insight like how we like started Tampa Devs, kind of like the principles behind it and how we scaled it. And these kind of like principles are actually applicable to any business in general, whether it's like you're growing like your own start for the first time, you're expanding a division at a company, like the principles are all the same. I mean, at the end of the day, a community is, we're running a nonprofit community, but we actually treat it like a business to some degree. So we're using the same principles of scaling and growing in that aspect. So to give you some perspective, like kind of like what the inspiration was, before that, we're going super meta here, because I told you, I wrote this like literally this morning. I'm just like, okay, just whatever. And then it's like, well, me and Charlton we're one of the lucky ones. Sorry if you guys can't get a picture of Steve. But we were one of the lucky ones, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like a dream come true. And especially for Charlton, it's like one of his like childhood idols. And so we're kind of going for a full circle here, just because like, why not? And you know, Steve was one of the co-founders of Apple, and you know, I like to take this image. I just took it off Google Slide, just whatever, just last minute. You know, it seemed appropriate, so I'm just like, all right, let's just throw it there. And it says think different, all right? Like you can go with the status quo, you can go with whatever everyone else does, copy trends, but at the end of the day, you're just copying trends, right? And I kind of want to shed some insight on like kind of like Apple's philosophy and scaling and branding, and kind of like how we're kind of emulating some of it. So there's a really famous TED Talk. It's probably you've seen it. You just nod your head right there.
Yeah, I'm just a sales guy, so
I
know this though. I know
I saw your nod right there. You're just like, I know that talk. I know that talk. So it's actually one of the most famous TED Talks out there. When TED was still a great thing. I don't know if it's still like that anymore. I really don't know. But back then, TED Talks were like, it was like the thing. It was like the inspirational videos that you saw that like drove leaders to learn about other leaders, and you found out about like really interesting concepts about how the world works and just people that you would never have dreamed of that meeting basically. But in this concept though, he goes over the why, how, and what, and this is from Simon Sinek back in like, I think it's like 2010 or something. I don't even remember. And he goes over kind of like the principles of how Apple is using that model for like kind of structuring their brand, their vision, etc. And so this is kind of like a summary from Neil Patel, who's actually one of the most famous marketers out there, just period. So kind of like Steve Jobs' perspective is like, hey, like why are we building Apple, right? And it's like everything we do, we believe in changing the status quo, right? We believe in building better products. We believe in thinking differently. And how do we do it? We build it by creating designs that are user-friendly. And what do we do it with? Great computers and technology, iPhones, iPod, etc. And I don't want to go over Steve Wozniak because he was there yesterday, but I do want to showcase an actual picture I took yesterday of Steve setting up his first Kubernetes cluster. So, I mean, you guys were all there. I'm assuming everyone was there, so like you kind of get the gist of like the why and how and what of him. He kind of embraces his inner child, and you can see it when he talks. Like you see that emotional inspiration, that he's like that drive almost. Like you almost feel inspired, just okay, I'm gonna go build the next big thing. Just hearing him talk, right? So. Yeah, so I'm gonna go over the why, how, and what now. So why? Why Tampa Devs? Why did we even bother doing this? And this just goes back like 2020. I was moving out of my apartment, or out of my parents' house actually, because I was living with my parents at the time. Yeah, I'm a late bloomer. Anyways, and I had like all this crap everywhere. I was moving in for the first time. I never moved in the new place before. I'm just like, geez, this is a crap show. But then I'm like, all right, I need to make friends. I don't know anybody down. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna throw a house party, and I threw like a house party in like 500 square feet with like 30 people in there, and like people were complaining about the noise being so loud, and they couldn't even like breathe because it was just like suffocating. So I opened up all the windows, turned the AC, and this was right before COVID, so I didn't do a good job for limiting that aspect. So yeah, but this was my first time actually throwing a party, period, and I was like, wow, this is fun. Like, this is actually kind of fun. I like doing this, and I met one of my best friends after a High Tech Connect, which you guys probably heard of, and then he's like a Latin dancer, and then he got me into dancing, and then believe it or not, there are so many people in the tech scene that are actually dancers, and I'm like, why? And it's like, apparently because like, well, we talk to computers all day, and like, we want to talk to people after work, and so we go dancing. Fun fact, by the way, a lot of the core members of Tampa Devs are actually dancers, and there's like a little bridge between the community. Everyone like is always shocked to hear that, so I just throw it out there. Anyways, this person's important because I'll get to it in a bit. So COVID hit, and everything shut down basically. All the meetups died, et cetera, et cetera. And all of the events were canceled on Meetup, on Eventbrite, what have you. And when things were kind of kicking back up again, like there was like reunions back at like one of the communities I first started my career. Because I'm from Orlando originally. I moved here in 2020. And we had this reunion. I brought Jonah right here, which is the guy you saw earlier, and my buddy Haritha. Both are dancers. I drove from Orlando there. And they're like, wow, this is like amazing. Like how many smart people in tech are here, this vibrant community of young and international and fun people. And then my buddy Haritha is like, why don't you do something like this in town, Vincent? Nobody's doing anything. Everyone's going virtual. And I'm like, all right. And the thing is, at the time, I did have like a huge network of like people in Orlando and Tampa, just because like I had to learn I could for the first time. I had a lot of mentorship, and I was giving back mentorship at like the community, the code camps, and like the boot camps in town. So I'm like, okay. But then I also thought, like, how do you keep up with a lot of people if you just have a lot of friends? Because I just like making friends. That's just me. I mean, everyone's different though. And I'm like, well, I can invite people one-on-one, talk about career stuff, and then talk to another person. I'm like, why am I doing like 3 times the work? It's like, why don't I just like throw everyone in a room and call it a day? So that goes into the how. So I was like, why don't I just use Meetup or something? As I go on there in like the 20s and 30s groups, I meet a bunch of people in town, and like, I just throw up an event, call it a day, and I don't have to do anything. It's actually less work to maintain contact with people in your area if you just throw a Meetup and just like, you don't have to meet them with one-on-one. You just meet like 20 people one-on-one at the same time. It's like, great, I'm already introverted already, but I am extroverted sometimes, but I want to like get all my extroverted stuff done and then go home and play some like Call of Duty or something. I don't know. And then I threw up an event, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna throw this event a meetup, whatever. And like, I got all my friends to RCP, like even the ones in Orlando, even though they weren't showing up. I was like inflating the numbers, because I'm like, dude, I gotta like fake it till you make it, just like fake the numbers, like blow it up a little bit and say like, all right, look how big we are. Our first event, we already got 30 people, man. And this guy's important guy right here. I'll get that in a bit. And like, this was our very first event, which I was going back to the original picture. And like, I didn't tell anybody, but like everyone here I actually knew already, and they're like friends of friends, except this like one guy right here. And he didn't know though. He didn't know. He was actually the very first member of Tampa Devs. His name is Chris. And yeah, Chris didn't know everyone. Everyone was like, he's like, bro, this guy's not a developer. She's not a developer. He's not a developer. There's like only 2 developers here. Like, what gives? Like, and I'm like, yeah, those are all friends of friends. I just invited. I just called a party. So I'm just like, yo, just come here. There's a food truck Thursday over in like third Thursday over in Channelside. Let's just whatever. And then I'm like, going back a year later, I saw him at our 1-year anniversary, and I just took a picture of him because I just kind of had to. And I don't know if you guys can tell what I'm wearing right now. I made a meme out of it. 'Cause, Tampa Devs, like 0 index array. I mean, if you're on 1 index array, I'm sorry, but it's just how it is. Anyways, I took a picture, had my friend design it. It was just for fun, and I haven't seen him since then, so I'm kind of bummed out. I haven't given him the shirt yet, but I am promoting him today, so I guess that's what matters. So what now? You're thinking about branding, right? You think of McDonald's, Shell, Starbucks, PlayStation, Apple, Instagram. Like they spend like billions of dollars in like branding, right? But I'm like, we're just throwing events. I'm like, we're not gonna spend that much money. We're cheap. That's how we make a living as developers, right? We're just cheap. We save money. We're always like stingy and everything, but we make like 6 figures. Like, whatever. But how do you go about branding though? And I was thinking about like, what's the conception of like idea that I want? And I was always this is actually the first business case I had for Tampa Devs. I didn't call it Tampa Devs at the time. I actually called it Tech Crew, because like every time I'd hang out with the crew, they're like, yo, let's talk tech, man. So I was like, you hang out with the crew, and then they're talking about tech, and it's like, okay, Tech Crew. Then they could like rebrand it across like different parts of, Florida and New York. It sounded like a great idea in theory. It's like it's a short word, 2 words, 2 syllables. And I thought about it, and I'm like, man, when people say like your first idea sucks, like it really does suck. and then yeah, I just wrote like a little thing there, and I was like, I just moved here, I just turned 30, I'm looking for friends, whatever. And I was throwing some concepts out there for like, okay, this is going to be like the logo design. And I was like, maybe Formula 1 race car, you're getting the crew ready, and you're like changing wheels, whatever, and you have like the corporate people. So I just took a stock image off Google, and then like more stock images. And then I don't even know why I came up with that. Don't even ask me why. I was just like, this looks funny. This should throw it up there. And then like pair programming, and then like driver and whatever when you're pair programming, like one's a leader, one's a driver, right? And then like, oh look, people pair. I don't know. It was thoughts on paper. I just literally came up, threw this up in like 5 minutes, and just like whatever images I found funny, and I just threw it up there. And then I'm like, I thought to myself, like I was going out for a run one day, and I was like, I was running here usually on the sidewalk, from here to here, because that's where you're supposed to run. But like the people in reality, like they're like, why would I have to run all the way here and then here? That's just stupid. You have to hit a sharp corner, right? Why not just like walk this way, and then everyone does it, and then by the time you know, it's like that, right? So I just had this like really random idea when I was running. I know these are the stupidest ideas just come when you're doing something random. And I'm like, well, why don't I just make a different logo? And I was like, these are some inspirations of logos I was thinking, and I just copied this, and I kind of did a really poor job, like this last bit. But I was like, maybe like, I'm thinking of Tampa, right? Like, what is Tampa known for? Oh, they're known for the Bucks, because we're Tampa Bay, and then we're also Tampa Bay over here, Tampa Bay Lightning. And I thought about my old community where I first started, called Orlando Devs. And so, we threw some logos together. They look pretty crappy, but that was the first iteration. And then, this is kind of one of our little like, this is one of our first designs. This guy's like a Lego guy. And this is like a swole little party dude. And I'm like, no, I don't know. It's a little bit too like male centered. You want to be more unisex, right? And I'm like, all right, that guy looks a little bit demented. He looks pretty happy, but that looks good, about that. And, you know, more iterations. And then like, hey, what's this look like with an ad patch? And I'm like, all right, let me check it out. And I was like, oh God, that looks like Metal Gear Solid. Snake! Snake! So, I'm just like, I like that. You know, we went with like this right there. And there's like, and then I was talking to Jock. Jock was here today actually. He's actually the guy who runs Orlando Devs. He was actually here earlier, and then I don't know if you guys saw him, but he was part of that thing. Anyways, he gave me some advice. He's like, why don't you do negative space, you know, because you have like so much crap on that logo. And I'm like, you mean like this? Like I just do this doodle. I'm just like, you mean like this, right? Because like that's the best way to communicate. You just draw a doodle and throw it out there. And I'm like, no, he's like this. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's a good idea, but I want to take it further. Maybe I have to do like a cooler bandana. And then I'm like, nah, I don't know about that. And then let me get some ideas. I just printed out the paper, sent it off to people, took some tick marks of what people like, and I realized, wow, people do not understand logo design at all. And then I'm like, we came up with this. I thought about it for a week, and I'm like, wow, this is really solid. I like it, but I'm still second guessing, so I let it sit there for 7 days and just thought about it every day. And I'm like, all right. But then like I thought about it, like, look at all the themes this thing has. Like, it's so geometrically perfect from like a Twitter mathematical design perspective, in case you want to know Twitter design. If you chunk it, it's like, wow, it's like super clean, either way. My friend made a 3D logo. You know, this sort of Orlando Devs, they have a resemblance because they're like sister entities. It's like gastrobility, so people think of like partying and whatnot, you know, having fun, whatever. It looks good on swag, so I'm wearing the hat right now. And then stickers, and it looks like almost like a restaurant from a sushi ninja. So there's like, it's got like that Asian theme, and it looks like Pokeball. So like, it's got like all the right themes. It looks like freaking like Snake Man. I mean, come on, like, it looks like Metal Gear Solid 5, like the snake from Metal Gear Solid 5. So I'm like, it's like it's got a badassery to it, you know. But it's not like too much of anything. It's like just the right balance. And it's like, this is like a perfect logo. Like I don't see many perfect logos out there, but this is like pretty close to perfect. And so we made so much swag off of it just because we wanted to. And then at the end of the day, you know, like now we have this brand, we have to have the mission statement. So we're a community of software developers seeking to come together. And that's kind of like what we are. So there's the brand that kind of people rally behind the mission with. And that's pretty much that. So branding is like your public image, and people want to rally behind it. So like you have to make sure subconsciously it makes sense. And so what you're all saying, this is what people have said, you know, how much time? What you're all saying. And yeah, so back to events again. I'm gonna get Tarleton. Oh,
sure. So I actually joined Tampa Devs about 6 months after its inception. And my first event was actually here at Armature Works. What month was that?
Like August.
Like August or so. And prior to that, I was thinking about running my own meetup. So I adopted this defunct Tampa Bay cybersecurity meetup, and ultimately decided that I'd like to do something that was a bit more kind of custom and new instead of just taking over the husk of a dead meetup. So I came to Tampa Devs, and you know, I actually formed a really great friendship with Vincent and with kind of the extended circle there. And over time, you know, I did a talk on application security at Tampa Devs, and just sort of slowly found myself, you know, becoming more involved to the point where I'm actually helping organize events and run the organization. And this has been a really fantastic journey for me, and also just for Tampa Devs itself, because I've been able to help Vincent with a lot, and you know, we're at a point in our growth that's pretty incredible given our, you know, relative age here. So we really bonded, I think, over the slide deck. Yeah. So we have this fantastic pitch deck, which is much more polished than this deck that we put together last night. But we basically were in this flow state where we were creating this slide deck. We didn't even really have to talk to each other. It just kind of came together.
We didn't even plan the meeting.
Yeah, like we were just in Google Slides, and we were just in there and just making it work. And so we've developed this really excellent kind of cross-functional partnership where we're able to take our respective strengths, organizing communities and putting things together. These are some pictures of us meeting with different sponsors and giving pitches for Tampa Devs to, like, that's IO Associates, there's my source, that's a high-tech connect event. And yeah, we've had some incredible success doing that. And does it go back to you for what? Okay. Yeah, so we're delivering on our mission to just kind of help people connect with like-minded peers, help them get some of the best technical content that they can learn from that's available in Tampa Bay. We bring in speakers from large companies. We do a lot of work mentoring students and engaging with student organizations at, say, UT, USF. And we build some very memorable experiences as well for our members. So, for example, TAD Hack, which we hosted last year, we had 120 people come out. They formed 12 different teams. Each of them worked on a unique project, and it was an incredible event that people took a lot away from. And we have casual networking events as well. So this is something where instead of our other type of event where it's like a structured meeting, we have people come in and give a presentation. Yeah, this is. Yeah, we have a lot of slides. This is where just people get together and network and kind of, you know, form friendships. Yeah, so I'm gonna skip to where you want us to go. There's a bunch of.
Yeah, we got some more.
We have a lot of stuff in here. There's no way that this would fit. You know what?
So this is kind of the why, how, and what, just like in the overview of like the branding strategy, where it's like scratch your own itch, the mission statement and brand, organizing, hosting events, and then Charlton's joining, kind of like wanting to start his own, but he joined Tampa Devs instead, and then kind of building the strong community from there. I do want to, we have the vision statement as well, where we're kind of what Charlton mentioned, but I want to show the case this video from our co-organizer.
Our goal is to have the tech community to provide a community for you to connect with other like-minded people that belong to your tribe. I was about half a year with Vincent, and we went to Orlando for a very similar meetup, like the one we're having today, but without presentations, but just chill and have a beer. And then on the way back, Vincent was thinking loudly that we don't have that in Tampa. We used to have it before COVID, but we don't have it anymore. And an idea was born. And being the hardworking guy Vincent is, I knew that idea was not to stay in his head for long. And it's going to be implemented on the ground. And sure enough, he did. Only a month later, we were chilling and having a beer in one of the places in Tampa. And that was probably the first time post-COVID that something like that happened. And then it was taken to a next level, and we started having presentations. Nowadays, roughly we have once a month like this, and once a month just chill and have a beer. So this is what we aim to, and it wouldn't have been possible without you wonderful people coming here. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say, because we're out of time. But
Here are some photos from previous events.
anyways, that's
So our goal
whoops.
is to
That's it. Yeah, we're done. There you go. That's connect with us.